Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another video. How much does money affect dating? Okay, it's an old chestnut, isn't it? You know, if it's not looks that people are banging on about 24/7, then it's money. Okay, you've got to be good looking, you've got to have money. I heard this on a radio talk show the other day. The host was saying that, in his opinion, the people who have the most success in the dating arena are people who are good looking and rich. Well, it's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? But how does it really break down, and what does it mean for you? The first thing to say is that money in itself doesn't necessarily automatically lead to good dating outcomes. And we know that, and we know that very simply because the guys that we work with tend, on average, to have a lot of money, or at least they have a higher income or net worth than average. How do we know that? Because we charge a lot of money to work with us, all right? And a lot of guys can't afford that, and we're out of their price range, and that's fine. But the guys that we do work with, particularly for sort of longer term one-on-one stuff, they tend to be pretty well heeled, pretty well off, okay? But they're coming to us as dating coaches and they're hiring us. Why would they be doing that if money was the answer? Because, quite simply, money in itself isn't the answer, all right? So dudes with money still have problems in dating, okay? So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is that when we do come into contact with men who are particularly wealthy, particularly well-heeled, we tend to encourage them not to showcase their wealth up front, okay? I'll say it again. We encourage them not to showcase their wealth up front. Now, this is counterintuitive if you buy into the narrative that all that matters is money, okay? Totally counterintuitive, because you would think if money was the thing that really turned the dial, we would be saying to clients, you've got to shout about it, you've got to tell everybody, you've got to tell women that you meet that you're loaded, okay? You would think that would be the advice. We say the opposite. We say, actually, you want to keep it under wraps, or at least at the beginning, you want to keep it under wraps to some extent. Why do we do that? Well, quite simply because what you actually want, what most men actually want in a dating context, is reciprocal desire and reciprocal affection. Okay, reciprocal desire, reciprocal affection. In other words, they want to like somebody and they want her to like him back. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept, but it's easy to lose sight of, because otherwise, and look, the world's oldest profession is when you pay people to have sex, right? It paid for intimacy is the world's oldest profession, right? We're in the middle of Prague. It's a hotbed for that kind of activity. If that were a solution that worked, then there wouldn't be a problem in dating, and there would be no need for dating coaches to exist, because everybody would just be doing that, okay? But that isn't a solution for most men, or at the very least, it's not a viable medium to long-term solution for most men. Why is that? Well, because, again, what they want is reciprocity, okay? They don't just want a cold transaction where money changes hands and then the deed is done and then that's it. Again, if that was enough, then there would never be a problem in dating, because people would just pay, guys would just pay, and that will be it, okay? Guys want to be loved, they want to feel desired, and you can't pay for that. You can pay for the illusion of it, you can pay for the pretense of it, but you can't pay for the real thing, okay? Because for the same reason that you can't logically convince somebody to like you, you can't logically convince somebody to love you, you can't financially convince somebody to desire you, you can't financially convince somebody to love you or to find you sexy or to want to hug you at night or whatever, right? You can't pay for that. You can pay for somebody to do it, you can pay for somebody to give the appearance of it, but you can't pay for the actual thing. And we're all sentient beings, and we can all feel the difference, okay? And this is why transactional relationships are not effective, okay? That's not to say that a degree of transactionality isn't a basis in many relationships, and obviously it is, but that's a wider conversation. the purely transactional relationship or the purely transactional sexual experience doesn't really cut it, okay? That's the problem. So when a guy goes out and he presents his wealth as being the best thing about him, the first thing that he presents, the problem with that is that he, more often than not, is going to attract women who are only drawn to that. And that's not really what he wants, okay? Because a lot of women who are not that way inclined are still going to be looking at him and still evaluating him and thinking, well, you know, do I actually desire this guy or not? And if he hasn't got his social skills sorted out, if he hasn't got his vibe and riz sorted out, let's say, then they're probably not going to be into him and they're just going to reject him anyway. The women who are going to come forward are likely to be women who are commercial in nature, and he's going to get himself into a transactional situation that he doesn't really want, okay? So it's not a good strategy to foreground wealth. It's just not a good strategy, okay? And as I say, you're going to get a whole bunch of women who are not transactional in that manner, and they're just going to get repelled by it anyway, okay? So wealth is not the single key factor that ignites real desire, okay? And the important thing here is real desire, okay? Not fake desire, not pretended desire. Now, in saying all of that, of course, if you've got a bit of money, that's going to oil the wheels as far as the dating process is concerned, and as far as the relationship's concerned. Because if you've got more access to wealth, then you're going to be able to offer more interesting experiences, more fun experiences, and you're going to be able to offer stability when it comes to a relationship, more levels of protection, more levels of provision, and so on and so forth. Great stuff, that's all good. But those things in themselves don't guarantee true love. They guarantee, well, it's a deal, isn't it? The art of the deal. But it's not, again, what you really want. It's not what most guys really want, okay? Some guys are going to be able to sort of pacify themselves with that, or kid themselves that they got what they wanted, but they didn't really. They didn't really. And that's the problem. So, how does money affect dating? Well, a friend of mine who is very wealthy put it best a while back, some years ago. He said, my money is not the reason that women are attracted to me. The reason women are attracted to me is my energy and my vibe and the way I look and the way I dress. It's not my money. But my money does make it more attractive overall because I'm able to offer them more exciting, more interesting experiences, okay? So instead of saying, all right, let's go to Wetherspoons and have a couple of drinks, he will say, why don't we drive to the south of France this weekend and go and stay in this chateau, and et cetera, et cetera. That's it, okay? Now, it's not to say that that is without value, because of course there is a huge value in that, for sure. But it's scratching the surface of what generates true attraction, okay? It's the icing on the cake, but it's not the cake. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I think it's pretty straightforward, but I think guys get very confused on this topic. If you are somebody that's got money and you're having problems in this area, you want to tone down references to your net worth if you're hoping that those references are going to get you into romantic situations, all right? Because it's going to get you, if at best, it's going to get you into the wrong types of romantic situations. They're not going to be very romantic, okay? Instead, you need to be focusing on the intangibles, okay? You need to be focusing on your energy. You need to be focusing on the way that you present, the way that you come across. And that stuff, you probably need to work with a mentor to get right. Because for some guys it comes very easily, but not many. A lot of guys need to work on this stuff, and as with many things in life, the difficulty is, if you don't know where you're going wrong, it's very hard for you to fix it on your own. Anyway, hope all of that makes sense. Hope Hope you enjoyed the video. Please do subscribe to my Substack. I put the link below in the description. Please subscribe to this channel. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, write a comment, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.